Tessa Owens is a grade 10 student at St. Michael's University School. Last summer, Tessa had the rare opportunity to attend the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. She traveled there as a media team member of We Canada, an organization that gathered input related to happiness in the context of sustainability from people across Canada. She came away from the conference understanding that the solutions to critical issues like climate change, ocean acidification, and deforestation cannot be achieved by governments alone. They require the energy, motivation, creativity, and inspiration of everyone. She's working to do her part. Take it away, Tessa.
So you may be wondering about the title of this presentation, Generation Frodo. You're probably thinking, what is she talking about? J.R.R. Tolkien, the author of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, doesn't seem like any tree hugger. After all, he wrote books. Books are printed on paper from dead, uprooted trees. What does Tolkien have to do with Earth Day? And what does a hobbit have to do with this teenager standing before us? Allow me to explain. If you aren't a Lord of the Rings fan, you might not know about Bilbo or Frodo or the war that Middle-earth, their home, was engulfed in. Meet Bilbo Baggins. The point I am trying to convince you of is that Bilbo represents the baby boomer generation. Look at him. Doesn't he look happy? Observe his unfurrowed brow, smug smile, and comfortable house robe. And if you look closely at Bilbo's eyes, you can see the sparkle of greed as he peruses the ring. So what does the ring represent? In Bilbo's story, the ring is a clever trick. He slips it on his finger to turn invisible. Once invisible, it is much easier for Bilbo to carry out his business as a burglar for the dwarves. The ring is Bilbo's convenient solution to his overarching problem, that sneaking into a dragon lair is much too risky for an ordinary hobbit. Before leaving on the journey to the Lonely Mountain, where his burglary was to take place, Bilbo needed some questions answered. I should like it all plain and clear. Also, I should like to know about risks, out-of-pocket expenses, time required and remuneration, and so forth, by which he meant, what am I going to get out of it, and am I going to come back alive? For the boomer generation, the ring represents an even cleverer trick, fossil fuels. Bilbo's ring is called the one ring to rule them all, but I like to think that fossil fuels have become the one resource to rule them all. To both Bilbo and the boomer generation, the full implications of their rings were unknown. Fossil fuels have undeniably contributed to the advancement of our civilization, making life more comfortable, convenient, and precious than ever, at least for us. Fossil fuels have assumed the role of powering our economy, our transportation, our food systems. But the consequences of society's addiction to this resource are becoming more and more evident, as I'm sure you all know. Gandalf coerced Bilbo into joining an adventure and described his intentions in this way. In fact, I will go so far as to send you on this adventure. Very amusing for me, very good for you, and very profitable too, very likely, if you ever get over it. In many ways, Bilbo's life story mirrors that of the quintessential boomer. Bilbo's adventure can be divided into 6 distinct stages. First, he found his calling, everyone's purpose in life. Then he found a group of dwarves, a community. He stole a magic ring from Gollum, with little regard for Gollum's feelings in the matter. For the boomers, this is like exploiting natural resources for their own generation, with little regard paid to future repercussions. He helped the dwarves defeat their dragon, and the boomers defeated many of the dragons of their time. For example, racial segregation, women's inequalities, DDT, and polio. Bilbo got rich in the end, so did the boomers. Lastly, he settled down and wrote his autobiography, living in self-satisfied retirement. But the story of Bilbo reveals only the tip of the iceberg, the tip of the enormous problem that their world was to face. Bilbo slayed a dragon, but Frodo's problems were a matter of life and death. He was fighting for the very survival of Middle-earth. Likewise, the boomer generation did not realize the full scope and extent of problems that my generation must now confront. Meet Frodo Baggins, Bilbo's nephew. He doesn't look as happy as Bilbo did with the ring. Note the furrowed brow betraying his worry, the clenched jaws, evidence of the heavy burden he carries. And while Bilbo wore an extravagant and comfortable house jacket, Frodo wears an eco-hemp organic free trade shawl. And if you look closely at Frodo's eyes, it's not too hard to see that he's feeling pretty angsty. Frodo's burden was to carry the ring to Mount Doom, to destroy it forever. It was too powerful, and its grip on the minds of those it touched was too cancerous. It is Generation Frodo's, my generation's, unfortunate duty to do the same, to throw the metaphorical ring into the fire. One great thing about being so young is that my generation is full of opportunists. We, like this plant, can see the cracks in the pavement, the room for growth, and the need for a paradigm shift that breaks through what once seemed so permanent. It sucks to know that our world is in such turmoil over an issue that seems so simple but also sometimes so impossibly difficult to resolve. About his burden, Frodo said, "I wish it need not have happened in my time." "So do I," said Gandalf, "and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us." With the time given me, I'm trying to do my part. Last year, I had the opportunity to journey to the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, or Rio+20. And I've recently been accepted to join an expedition to Antarctica. This will involve experiential learning with 30 world-renowned scientists, historians, artists, explorers, educators, leaders, innovators, and polar experts. I hope to share the knowledge and unique experiences I gain and strive to represent Victoria well while away from home. This is a quote that speaks to uniting our two generations, which is something that I really hope will happen. "Where did you go to, if I may ask?" said Thorin to Gandalf as they rode along. "To look ahead," said he. "And what brought you back in the nick of time?" "Looking behind," said he. In closing, I'll show you where the art piece on the back wall came from. It was a result of people from all walks of life creating a message together. Thank you.